Hi people, I am perpetually behind in covering literally everything, but I made a 20-page outline, so we're doing this. As I covered last year in my video, do liberals need a Joe Rogan? The Dems struggle during election season to expand and capitalize on the social media ecosystem. Kamala Harris refused to go on Joe Rogan in her campaign, maintained the Joe Biden status quo, cutting off the left flank of the party and stalling the initial momentum. Many, myself included, perceived the Walz VP pick as a sign that her campaign might lean towards more leftist economic policies, but instead, nothing changed. She refused to budge on Israel, claimed she would want the most lethal military, and pander to small business owners instead of improving life for the working class. They didn't touch more leftist streamers and content creators with a 10-foot pole, despite them having politically engaged audiences. Hasanabi, the most popular leftist content creator at the moment, was kicked out of the DNC after criticizing the Democratic Party's position on Israel and was excluded from similar campaign events. Kamala Harris's policies and moves during the campaign excluded a huge flank of the left and therefore left social media opportunities off the table in an effort to preserve neoliberalism. I also mentioned in that video that Republicans have a hold on the social media ecosystems like the YouTube algorithm and know how to use controversy to drive clicks. Whereas Democrats still heavily rely on traditional media like CNN and MSNBC and are falling behind in weaponizing this new form of propaganda. But my ultimate conclusion was that a Joe Rogan of the left is not going to solve the Democrats' problem, that they need reliable policies that uplift the working class, and then, and only then, will they be able to effectively wield some of the most popular left-wing content creators to their advantage. But in the year following, it appears the Dems are taking all the wrong lessons from the Republicans. In late August, Taylor Lorenz released an article in the Wired publication detailing a liberal creator incubator program called Chorus, being funded by a dark money group by the name of 1630. Republican media companies and even politicians like J.D. Vance have long been propped up by shady billionaires. Billionaire Ferris Wilks helped initially fund the Daily Wire, which housed names like Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens, Matt Walsh, and Brett Cooper. Nobody in their right mind expects Republicans to be upfront and honest about these things, but one would expect the slightly more moral Democrats to be honest about at least this. This article sparked backlash from liberal creators, especially those who were a part of the program. They all refuted the claims, including the founder of the program, Brian Tyler Cohen, calling Taylor Lorenz a liar and bringing into question both her and Wired's integrity as publications and journalists. Now, I want to use this video as a follow-up to that video from last year. As a small content creator myself, who has been slowly peeking my head into this industry, I want to investigate this situation and get to the bottom of it. Is Taylor Lorenz a liar? Or are liberals truly not disclosing their payments from political organizations? Many of these creators say they shouldn't have to disclose these payments anyways. Is that ethical and fair to their audiences? I want to know what space I'm stepping into as a sadly political content creator. I started off playing Red Dead Redemption. How did I get here? I'm still trying to figure that out. Are these programs taking advantage of naive, smaller creators and forcing them into messaging campaigns in exchange for money and opportunities? Are the creators sacrificing their values for money? Or is it some sort of happy medium between them all? But before we get into any of that, I would like to ask you, as always, to subscribe. I have TikTok, Instagram, Patreon, Discord. You can connect with your fellow community members. You know the drill. Patreon, easy way to support the work I do. You can get exclusive content of how I make videos just like this from start to finish. And if you're on my top tier, you get early access to every single video. If you want to do that, you can, or you can just give $1 over there on Patreon or here on YouTube, where you get cute emotes. You can put them in the chat. But as I briefly explained, a lot of creators a part of Chorus claimed Taylor Lorenz was lying, but some of them also intentionally twisted the narrative of the article to make themselves seem more innocent. So I want to go through the entire article and state exactly what it said versus what people online are saying. Now, liberal influencers were allegedly offered $8,000 a month to take part in a secretive program aimed at bolstering democratic messaging on the internet. After the last election, Dems are looking to counteract the right-wing media machine, but they might be following the Republicans a bit too closely. In the same way Republicans groom and take part in dark money, shady billionaire schemes to fund their media ecosystem, liberals are now taking a page out of their book. Now, who was taking the dark money, you ask? Well, it was none other than Chorus, as I stated earlier, a liberal creator cohort founded by Tyler Cohen. The cohort was founded to help smaller political content creators build a network of other creators, as well as provide resources and social media training. Cohen boasts that the cohort has a collective 40 million followers and 100 million weekly viewers. Lorenz is alleging that Chorus was funded by the dark money group 1630. The 1630 Fund has become a powerful funder in democratic spaces. It was founded in 2009 as a liberal response to conservative dark money groups. In 2018, the 1630 Fund provided 141 million to more than 100 left-leaning causes in order to bolster democratic support during the midterms, according to a tax filing obtained by Politico. In 2020, the fund distributed more than 400 million according to the organization's public tax filing, which Politico said was used in efforts to unseat then-President Donald Trump and Republican Senate majority. In 2022, the 1630 Fund spent 196 million backing state ballot measures on abortion rights heading into the midterms, according to NBC. Just 4 donors accounted for close to 2/3 of the fund's revenue in 2023, according to its tax filing. The largest donor gave the group 50.5 million, with others donating 31 million, 21 million, and 13 million. Walker Davis, a research director for Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, says 1630 is not required to disclose its contributors. We'll circle back to that a little bit later. Chorus is described in contracts reviewed by Wired as a project of the 1630 Fund that handles operations for the Creator Program. Taylor Cohen founded the cohort with Good Influence, the for-profit influencer marketing agency Stuart Perlmutter. Among other restrictions, the contract mandated secrecy about disclosing their payments, and there were restrictions on what political content the creators could produce. According to Wired, creators confirmed these restrictions, although it isn't stated who. In a leaked group chat, creators discussed the details. Should we send a joint email with all of our email addresses, or are we just going to send things separately and hope they change everything for everyone? Lorenzo, a non-binary creator in Columbus, Ohio, with over 884,000 TikTok followers, asked the group. Some joked about collectively bargaining. Any Newsies fans here? Eliza Orleans, a public defender and reality TV star known for her appearances on Survivor, posted in the group, "We're a union just by saying so. I don't feel strongly about pushing, to be honest." Aaron Parnas, a Gen Z news influencer who has been called the Gen Z Walter Cronkite and has been lauded in legacy media outlets, posted to the chat. "They aren't going to modify it anymore. Seems like a take it or leave it. I believe we are in stage 5, acceptance," Pari responded. Creators began signing on to the deal. Influencers who were offered the funding were given just days to sign the contract, which was given on a take it or leave it basis. At least one cohort was specifically told that lawyers could not redline it. In the group chat forum to discuss contract negotiations, some creators discussed a clause prohibiting the disparagement of other creators. Not being able to criticize anyone else affiliated with Chorus felt restrictive to some, according to text messages posted to the chat. Eventually, the creators in the group chat agreed to drop the issues they had. "I don't think Chorus is out to screw us," Orleans, a creator who has offered $8,000 per month, said in the group chat. Some influencers for Chorus Creator Incubator program were offered as little as $250 per month, according to one creator who declined to accept a deal, while others were offered membership into the Amplifier cohort, which provides up to $8,000 per month. Influencers that Wire alleges were paid by 1630 include Olivia Juliana, Lauren Pietra, Barrett Adair, Politics Girls, Sander Jennings, and David Pacman, among others. This contract that they signed allegedly states that they can't disclose their relationship with 1630 or that they're being paid at all. According to copies of the contract viewed by Wired, creators in the program must funnel all bookings with lawmakers and political leaders through Chorus. Creators also have to loop chorus in on any independently organized engagements with government officials or political leaders. If I want to work with another politician, I have to collaborate with them, said one creator who was offered the contract but ultimately declined to take it and asked not to be named. If I get Zoran and he wants to do an interview with me, I don't want to give that to them. There are some real great advantages to housing this program in a nonprofit, Wilson said to creators on a Zoom call reviewed by Wired. It gives us the ability to raise money from donors. It also, with this structure, it avoids a lot of the public disclosure or public disclaimers, paid for blah blah blah, that you see on political ads. We don't need to deal with any of that. Your names aren't showing up on reports filed by the FEC. The creators who joined the incubator are expected to attend advocacy trainings and daily messaging check-ins, as well as 2 chorus newsroom events per month. Something in the article I did find to be a little bit misleading was the word secretive when describing chorus. Taylor Lorenz herself has said that chorus was well known for the backlash and that she had actually reported on them prior to writing this article, so I think the use of that word is a bit misleading. Chorus even has a website with some of its creators on the front page. Speaking of their website, though, Chorus faced a wave of backlash after certain creators' images were included in the firm's fundraising decks without their permission. One of them was Kat from Media Matters and a candidate for Congress in Illinois, who asked for her image to be removed. So it's all a bit of a messy situation, but here's the TLDR. Chorus was allegedly funded by a dark money group, 1630, to bolster the Democratic Party's messaging platform online. Because they are a nonprofit, though, they are not required to disclose who they are funded by, and by proxy, the creators don't have to either. But what Taylor Lorenz and Wired take issue with is the lack of transparency for their audiences, and the loopholes are no different than the shady tactics Republicans use to bolster their messaging campaign. A lot of people associated with Chorus criticized the article and called Taylor Lorenz a liar. Olivia Juliana and Women in America were some of them. Olivia Juliana confirms that she was not paid to make content, but rather to support and grow her independent platform. Aaron Parnas said virtually the exact same thing, which kind of calls into question whether they were given a script. I don't know, that's just speculation. But he says they weren't paid for content, but paid to help grow their platform, and that Chorus doesn't control any of the content that they create. The article, for one, never states that they were paid to create particular content for Chorus, but rather it would naturally bolster the Democratic Party's messaging, as all of these creators are liberal. But perhaps he just wanted to clarify that for his audience, I don't know. He also says that this article advocates for even regular people to have to disclose where they work and who they get paid by, which I think is a bit of fear-mongering on his behalf. This ballpark we are in as content creators, and especially political content creators, is completely different than a 9 to 5. The FEC is involved, credibility and trust with your audience is involved. It is disingenuous to dismiss the criticism of this article by negating these facts at play. There's also a really interesting part in this video that he posted that he chooses not to debunk. He shows a TikTok comment from Taylor Lorenz where she alleges Chorus kept creators from commenting in the article and threatened to kick them out if they did. If this weren't true, wouldn't you want to clarify it for your audience, who obviously are going to pause the video and read the full comment? I'm just saying. Lene Vinay wasn't a part of the program, but still defended Olivia Juliana and other creators who were stating that Taylor Lorenz was lying and discouraging creators from getting paid. This is one I was surprised by because I do think Lene does really good work, and I appreciate any black creator, especially leftist black creators, who have been able to rise above the white supremacist structure of the internet. And I still appreciate her work, but I think she got some things wrong. She accuses Taylor Lorenz of targeting black creators, but most of the people in the article aren't even black. This is something I've seen from other creators as well, but it's an unfair criticism as most creators mentioned in the article are white. Aaron Parnas, Brian Tyler Cohen, David Pacman, Loren Pietra, Lorenzo, Politics Girl, major people mentioned in the article, and all white. I recognize as a small black content creator how hard it is for black creators to rise above the algorithm. That is a valid concern, but has nothing to do with this article. She also completely misunderstood the article whenever saying that Taylor Lorenz is advocating for content creators not to get paid.
Talking about the issue is these dark money groups funding these creators to say specific things and us not knowing who's saying what and who's affiliated where. I've got many issues with this. The first one, if what you were saying was true, so, and let me be clear, it's not, so let me backtrack. I know Elizabeth Booker Houston personally, and what she and I and several other Black creators talk about is not getting paid and not getting paid our work to do our work.
Taylor never said that. That's not her argument at all. It's all about transparency. If you're doing political content, you owe it to your audience to disclose if and where you're getting paid, especially if it's a political organization. She claims this only divides the left, but how are liberal organizations any better than the right if they're doing the exact same shady shit? The article actually mentions the parallel between dark money funded groups like Chorus and the Republican media infrastructure, which pioneered this tactic, which is another criticism that she had that is completely false because it's literally mentioned in the article. It mentions Tenet Media's funding by the Russian state and the National Republican Congressional Committee, spending nearly $500,000 to work with Creator Grid. It calls into question for me, respectfully, like I said, I love Lene's work, but it calls into question whether she actually read the article or just got spoon-fed the information by other content creators she's friends with. I'm a little skeptical. Taylor Lorenz is famously contentious with right-wingers like Libs of TikTok and has covered the impact of conservative commentators before. It's not like she's cozying up to the right, she's just also holding liberals accountable. How are we supposed to build a better political system amid growing fascism if this is the type of stuff that's happening behind closed doors? Shouldn't you want transparency across the board? Shouldn't you want everyone to be held accountable if they're doing something wrong? Even creators like Miss X Tina B have criticized Taylor Lorenz for also being funded by Omidyar, which I think is actually one of the only valid critiques thus far.
So she's being paid by the billionaire who invested in a funded and agreed to fund millions into dark money. But she's okay because she let everybody know.
Taylor Lorenz is a part of the Omidyar Journalist Residency Program, which similarly to Chorus helps fund independent journalists. I understand why this would cause people to distrust Lorenz, as she in some backwards way is being funded by a billionaire and the same billionaire who funded a dark money group. It's a valid question to ask if that's ethical in its own way, but ultimately her argument in the article was transparency, which Chorus didn't stay on its website and didn't allow its creators to disclose either. I don't think any of this would be an issue if Chorus had just stated that they were funded by 1630. We could all be moving on with their lives right now. Now, I don't have time to go through every creator's response, but they were all virtually the same anyways, if I'm being honest. There was this one girl who showed the contract in order to debunk the article. It was ultimately really a mistake because she ended up just showing a part of the contract that confirmed the criticism of the article. It literally states in the contract that creators have to disclose to Chorus before talking to elected officials or for certain topics related to their policy agenda. David Pacman might be suing. I don't know if that was in reference to this or if it was in reference to something else, but I don't know where that has led since then. Brian Teller Cohen clip-chumped Candace Owens to imply she's friends with Taylor Lorenz.
There are people like Taylor Lorenz who are desperate to tear the left apart, and in fact, it becomes clear who her efforts help when you hear stuff like this.
Genuinely, I kind of like Taylor Lorenz because I know that she actually believes what she says. You get what I'm saying?
So yeah, I generally don't align myself with friends of Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens.
If you have to clip-chump and lie to make a point, boy, you've already lost. Now, there have been creators who have defended Lorenz's claims. Sean the Black, my goat, my king, made a statement alluding to something like this.
You know the crazy part about that, specifically from like the influencer side of it, they were offering influencers like thousands of dollars in order to post only good things about the IRA. And if you were like, hey, I'm going to be a little bit critical in my video, and then be like, oh, you're critical, you don't get the money. And so if you see influencers that are like, that's why I always say if you see influencers that are unable to be critical of Biden to any degree, there is a good chance that through some maybe proxies or organizations, they're getting paid to say the things that they are getting paid or they're saying.
Keith Edwards, according to Wired, made a similar claim, stating the way it was structured seemed predatory, although he was not invited to be a part of the program. What I don't understand is, why wouldn't you just donate to creators directly who have already built something and just need to put gasoline on the fire, says Edwards. Democrats at least understand that the internet exists now, so that's good. But they still think influencers are just there to do terrible direct-to-camera interviews that no one watches, rather than just treating us like another form of media. V. Sparra, who accused Chorus of including him in a promotional material, told Wired, "What we need is for people to invest in independent media, and that doesn't necessarily mean investing in a consulting group that's going to be a middleman for independent media." Now remember the Joe Rogan of the left, Hasanabi. He backed up Lorenz's reporting, adding in his own perspective on being approached for similar things. He also stated creators like the ones in Chorus have never been an accurate or credible reflection of the Democratic Party, at least in terms of its voters, and instead a mouthpiece for the establishment.
The broader base of the Democratic Party, for example, is literally 92% on the fuck Israel side, okay? 77% of Democrats acknowledge that Israel is doing a genocide. 77%. None of these guys actually talk about that. None of these guys actually openly state it. How the could you be an accurate reflection of the Democratic Party's base if you are speaking zero moments about the one singular issue that Democrats have a supermajority opinion on? Democrat voters, I mean. That's it. I don't think this is a purity test. This is not like a purity spiral. This is just like straightforward paid propaganda. This is paid shilling.
He brought up the point that a lot of these creators don't criticize Democratic politicians and are pro-Israel, despite 77% of Democratic voters believing that Israel is committing a genocide. Creators like these, whether they are getting paid or not, honestly, don't help the party, as they only reinstate the horrible political instincts of the establishment and don't work to give us new solutions. Elizabeth Dubois, an assistant professor and university chair in politics at the University of Ottawa, told Wired, "Sometimes it's actually clear that influencers are being used to, for example, evade spending limits," she says. "I think that we need to remember that for democracy to thrive, we do need transparency around who is paying for political messages." That is ultimately what it comes down to. Creators who criticize this article argued political content creators shouldn't have to disclose where their money comes from, that this article advocates for creators not to get paid, but that is a disingenuous analysis of this article. The whole point is that if you are paid from a political organization in a similar way that a streamer would have to disclose an ad, you should disclose if you're getting money from a political organization. Even if that organization doesn't control your messaging or content, transparency is key to maintaining trust with your audience. When we say we should move more like Republicans, we mean we should be more vicious in what we advocate for, more unapologetic. This is just creators engaging in the same shady tactics while advocating for the same lukewarm policies that won't help the party gain back trust. If anything, it confirms the suspicions people already have about the Democratic Party. As I said, the goal for leftists and liberals should be to push for policies that help the working class. We need drastic change if we want to go up against the opposing party, which has successfully positioned itself as anti-establishment, solve people's issues with healthcare reform, gun control, price regulations on groceries and rent, public transportation, workers' rights. If you do these things, you can tap into some of the biggest and up-and-coming left-wing creators like Hassan, Caroline Kwan, Denims, Sean the Black, as well as the liberal ones. Because guess what? As you can tell from this article and this story, the liberal content creators will mimic whatever the party's policies are. They will come along regardless because, as the story proves, they don't really advocate for anything other than, like I said, what the party does. The thing about articles like these is that they come with a lot of misinformation from social media. Other creators completely lied and twisted the details of the article, knowing full well people weren't going to read it for themselves. It seems too raw, too real, and Elizabeth Booker Houston perpetuated the lie that Taylor Lorenz's article was attacking Black creators, which then obviously trickled down to other creators like Lene Vinay, who might have not read the article themselves. It also caused creators who had no affiliation with Course to be questioned and attacked by their audience, though. That's why I would further argue engaging in these shady tactics causes mistrust, not just for you and everyone associated with chorus, but also for everyone else. I personally view that as more of a chorus issue than a Taylor Lorenz exposing chorus issue. Because if chorus had never taken dark money, no other liberal creator would ever be tied to possibly engaging in the same shady tactics, whether they're doing it or not. It causes everyone to mistrust the party, the creators involved, everyone. People were even questioning if Hassan and Austin had taken money, for God's sakes. This doesn't just affect chorus, but only reaffirms the mistrust people are gaining towards the Democrats and the left as a whole. It's so unhelpful to the cause. I can't emphasize that enough. As a smaller creator, I wouldn't have thought to even ask these questions. Who founded it and what's their background? What do they advocate for and where are they getting their money? It's taught me to be more cautious and skeptical because obviously this industry is full of a lot of shade and weaponization of misinformation on the left and right. Now, I really don't like talking about Hassan, even though it's very obvious that I love that man. I just think he is so baby girl. Like, I love him down. I love him down. But what I also love about him is that he's the definition of integrity. He lives and dies by the sword. He's been advocating for the same things for the past 10 years. He's stubborn and skeptical, but simultaneously forgiving and kind to a fault at honestly, a lot of times. When I think about who I want to be as a creator, the word integrity is at the forefront. I would never want to compromise my ethics and morals to get ahead or get closer to the establishment. That means being radically honest with my audience, with you, about the Democratic Party, America's long history of violence and intervention overseas, and advocating for policies I believe in, no matter how radical or socialist they may be. These are all things that may keep me from reaching even the level Hassan is at, especially as a Black creator, but I will never compromise the truth and honesty for clout. Thank you all so much for watching. I would like to give a shout out to my Patreon members, my $7. I'm gonna get it right this time. My $7, my $3, and my $1. I also like to give a shout out to my YouTube members. Thank you, girl. Thank you. And I would like to give a shout out to you for watching this video. Okay, bye.